Based on actual events, a woman shapes her daughter into a female prodigy in a patriarchal society. However, things take a dark turn when her daughter starts to stray from her ideals. In Galicia, Spain, Aurora Rodriguez Carola, an affluent woman who advocates for women's rights, believes that women are the ones to shape the future of humanity. Therefore, as an experiment, she makes love with a priest because he won't claim paternity over the child they'll conceive. Once the child is born, Aurora names her Hildegard, whom she deems the first free woman. Aurora raises Hildegard under strict eugenic parameters to transform her into a person who will fight for a decent society. Due to Aurora's strict yet effective teaching, Hildegard can speak 6 languages. Then, as a dean, she begins studying medicine, law and philosophy at the university. With her determination, she becomes the youngest lawyer in Spain. Fast forward to 1931. In Madrid, Aurora, along with her daughter, intrudes inside an editorial office and confronts editor Guzman for publishing Hildegard's essay on female sensuality. In his defense, he can't just publish it under Hildegard's name, as he assumes that he would never author such a brilliant piece. Aurora insists that Hildegard is the real author, but Eduardo remains doubtful of her claims, believing that she's just fooling him to prove it. Aurora urges Eduardo to ask her daughter anything about the article. After a brief consideration, he proceeds to ask a series of questions related to the article, and Hildegard flawlessly presents her opinion. Eduardo is still skeptical because Hildegard might have memorized all of it. Aurora jumps into the conversation and expresses her doubt that Eduardo won't question her daughter's capabilities if she were a man with her age. Eduardo can't fathom how she's well versed in female sensuality. Hildegard intimidatingly voices that she knows more than a man will ever, despite her lack of experience. Recognizing her point, Eduardo eventually relents and proceeds to publish their article under her name. Following its publication, Hildegard's popularity starts to grow, but the opposition intimidates her family. When Aurora sees the discriminatory vandalism outside their apartment, she tries to dismiss the issue, but Macarena, their housekeeper, feels threatened by it. She offers to get a gun for her so that she can defend herself, but Aurora refuses. The next day at a volleyball game, Abel, a socialist activist, approaches them and invites Hildegard to attend their party meetings. He shares that they have read all of her articles and they're convinced that they can work together. Aurora interjects and declines his invitation in Hildegard's dead, reasoning that they have contrasting priorities. Back in their apartment, Hildegard notices that her mother is asleep, so she decides to sneak inside her room. As she scours through Aurora's cabinet, unearthing an unfamiliar photograph that sparks her curiosity, she proceeds to turn the picture and she learns that the subjects are Aurora and a child named Pip. Now Hildegard is intrigued by Pip's identity, but her pondering is disturbed when Macarena reprimands her for snooping into Aurora's possessions. Unfazed, she asks her about Pip, but the woman leaves the question unexplained. That night, Aurora teaches Hildegard about a woman's anatomy when her daughter encourages her to accept Abel's offer. Aurora refuses because she thinks they'll take advantage of them. The following day, Macarena shows Aurora another vandal on their wall, prompting the matriarch to agree to purchase a gun. During her bath, Hildegard asks Aurora why she thinks the Socialist Party will take advantage of them, and she explains that's how politics works. Hildegard considers Abel's offer, as she believes that ideas are useless if they're not applied to people's lives. She reminds her mother that it's their goal to change things, but Aurora insists that the party's goals aren't aligned with theirs. Moreover, the meeting will be dominated by men, but this only motivates Hildegard to attend because it's their way of defending their ideas. Eventually, Aurora accompanies Hildegard to the Socialist Party's meeting. After considering her opinion upon seeing them, Abel is delighted that they attend the meeting, so to make their stay worthwhile, he informs them that Hildegard may speak on the podium. Once it's her turn, Hildegard shows the crowd a newspaper article that features mistreatment committed on women. She proceeds to share her perspective regarding how the party has overlooked women's rights. A glaring evidence of it is the lack of female comrades in the room, so Hildegard criticizes them for not giving the other women a chance to join them just because most of them are illiterate. Now she emphasizes that to make a freer and fairer Spain, they should start with their party. The next day, Hildegard persistently begs Macarena to reveal Pip's identity, so the woman gives in to her pleas. According to Macarena, Pip is the only man Aurora has ever truly loved, which shocks the teen. The housekeeper adds that he's Aurora's nephew, whom she turns into a piano prodigy. However, Macarena reveals that Aurora's sister took Pip away because she could profit from his talent. Moving on, Macarena urges her to read a romantic novel for her, for she struggles to read it herself. That day, Hildegard and Aurora return to the party's meeting to meet new members who happen to be women. After Hildegard converses with them, she feels uncomfortable due to her period, so she approaches her mother to inform her need to use the restroom. On her way, Hildegard bumps into Ramon, who reprimands her for trying to enter the men's restroom. She pleads with him to allow her to use it because she has an urgent matter to attend to, but he forbids her. In her defense, Hildegard can't find the women's restroom, and Ramon explains that it's because there isn't one. Suddenly, a comrade calls for Ramon, distracting him and allowing Hildegard to enter the restroom. Moments later, Hildegard leaves the store, but she's surprised to find Abel in front of the sink to make small talk with her. Abel expresses his delight that more women are joining their party, but Hildegard is concerned that they don't have their own restroom. Because of this, Abel suggests that she should write an essay about the subject. Back home, Aurora confronts Hildegard about the romantic novel she discovers on their sofa, and the teen explains that she's trying to understand how love is depicted in mass-consumed fiction. Aurora despises such books, for she thinks they aren't indicative of anything and only contain unfulfilled desires. Intrigued, Hildegard asks her if she ever desired someone, and Aurora reveals that she fell in love with the captain once. Aurora reminisces that they were supposed to be married, but they postponed it because she wanted to be a free woman. Bravely, Hildegard asks her about loving Pip, but this only upsets Aurora, especially with Macarena's indiscreet. Not long after, Eduardo visits the Carolus and informs Hildegard that Dr. Havelo Ellis wants her work about love and intimacy to be published in England. Moreover, H.G. Wells is interested in writing her Ok's prologue, which makes Hildegard feel ecstatic. On the contrary, Aurora disapproves of it, so Hildegard reminds her that Havelock's expertise is beneficial for them. Still, Aurora is firm on her decision, stressing that Havelock and Wells will only want to take advantage of her ideas. Later that day, Abel attends Hildegard's book signing, but due to excitement he's unaware that he has cut the line. Hildegard orders him to wait because there are people who queue first, which makes him feel a little embarrassed. As Abel patiently waits for her, Hildegard finally appears, so he requests her to sign his book. In Hildegard's perspective, a book's ideas must reach its people, not who signs it. Her remark takes Abel aback, but he expresses that it would be an honor to have her signature on his book. Hildegard feels flattered by his words, so she requests a pen from him. When Abel hands it to her, their hands brush, awakening her attraction for him. Meanwhile, a woman approaches Hildegard's table and she asks Aurora if the author is still available to sign her books. Aurora realizes that her daughter has yet to return, prompting her to search for her. Once she locates her, Aurora is displeased that she is alone with Abel, so she threatens him by emphasizing their differing priorities. Back home, Macarena tries to comfort a crestfallen Hildegard, but the teen lies that she's just tired. Macarena senses that she's interested in someone because she has never seen her tired after a presentation. Since Yat refuses to share her thoughts, the housekeeper worries that the man she likes must have wronged her, but she denies it. In the end, Hildegard admits that she barely interacted with Abel because Aurora has interfered. Despite this, Hildegard is determined to see him, so she pleads with Macarena to help her to meet him alone. Macarena promises to help her in any way she can, which earns Hildegard's gratitude. Unbeknownst to them, Aurora is outside her daughter's room and she feels betrayed after hearing their conversation. To stop their possible romance between Hildegard and Abel, Aurora threatens him that her daughter won't attend their party meetings if he continues to interact with her. For this reason, Abel, even if against his will, ensures that he ignores Hildegard whenever she's attending their meetings. Hildegard starts to feel hurt, for she's unaware of why he's ignoring her. Suddenly, Abel approaches her and hands her a brochure, but he maintains his distance from her. Hildegard tries to start a conversation with him by recommending that women's decisions should be part of the party's choices. Abel acknowledges her recommendation, but he abruptly ends their conversation. That evening, Aurora worries about an anarchist group that robs home, but Macarena assures her that they won't pursue theirs because they're only after the wealthy. Regardless, Aurora refuses to be complacent, knowing they have a good jewelry box and their residence is composed of only women. Again, Macarena insists it's unlikely to happen since both of them are well known and can risk a Backlash. Days later, Hildegard delivers her speech in front of the Socialist Party members, wherein she announces the women's allegiance to the group. She believes that the allegiance between men and women is essential in creating a just society. With her words, the whole room expresses their support for her, but she's only focused on knowing Abel's reaction. Just as she finds him in the crowd, Hildegard feels sad that Abel remains indifferent toward her. Afterward, in her bed, Hildegard discovers Abel's writing in the brochure, which reveals a playful teasing from him. This brings a smile to her face, but she immediately hides it under her pillow when she hears her mother's voice. Now that Hildegard knows that Abel still likes her, she ensures that whenever she attends a meeting she bumps into him. Through this, they are able to communicate with each other about what's going on in their lives. Since it's effective, the pair becomes creative in sneaking their letters. Sometimes they hide them in the bathroom stall and even there. Lectern. Because of this, Hildegard has a collection of letters that she hides from her mother. In addition to learning about each other's lives, the pair uses their secret communication to discuss their perspectives on certain societal issues. This inspires Hildegard to write her essays, which leads her to publish more books, until one day at the meeting Aurora grows suspicious of them. After hearing that Hildegard and Abel have the same stance regarding women's reproductive health, immediately the woman rummages through her daughter's table and finds the stack of letters between Abel and Hildegard. As punishment, Aurora forbids her from attending meetings and leaving their house. She then gives her a stricter schedule for her intellectual activities and even declares that they'll sleep together at night. Aurora strongly believes that giving in to her desires will jeopardize their project. While she reprimands her daughter, Macarena observes them, and she can't help but despise the controlling woman. For the following days, Hildegard complies with her mother's demands, leaving her feeling unfulfilled. One morning, Macarena retrieves the reader letters for Hildegard. When she discovers one that doesn't have any sender information, thinking it's from Abel, Aurora snatches it from her hand and opens it. She's surprised to find an invitation to Pep's piano concert, which she decides to attend. On the night that Aurora is away, Macarena gives Hildegard a red dress for her date, and the teen is grateful for the woman's generosity. At the club, Hildegard enjoys her night as she dances without inhibition with Abel. Meanwhile, Aurora expectantly watches Pep perform, but when he makes a mistake on stage, she grimaces in disappointment. Sometime after, in his backstage, Aurora meets him and expresses her disappointment in his performance, as she had expected better from him. Pep feels humiliated by her words, especially since his talent is starting to decline. Dismissing this, Aurora is confused as to why he invited her, but Pep clarifies that he didn't because he doesn't want her to see him in York State. Aurora starts to feel suspicious of Hildegard, so she abruptly leaves to check on her daughter. Unbeknownst to her, Macarena created a fake invitation to help Hildegard attend her daughters. For Hildegard, she's conversing with Abel about Havoc's offer, and she informs him that she has turned it down. She explains that she doesn't want to go to London alone, so Abel volunteers to accompany her. Moments later, Aurora returns home and heads to Hildegard's room, but she finds her sleeping still. She's suspicious of her, so the woman scours her daughter's wardrobe and sniffs her clothes. Aurora discovers the red dress concealed in one of Hildegard's coats, confirming her suspicion about her. The next morning, Aurora thinks of a way to cut Abel from Hildegard's life, so she urges Macarena to take her to their house. Upon arriving at their destination, Aurora meets with Antonio Marina's husband to conspire with him. Aurora learns that he's involved with an anarchist group that robs rich people, which will help her get rid of Abel. A week later, Abel arrives at the carer's residence after Aurora invites him to have dinner with them. During their meal, Aurora asks Abel's opinion on how the Socialist Party will change for him. The party won't, as it has betrayed the principles of the labor movement to focus on an electoral strategy. Therefore, he shares that he's considering joining the Federal Party, and Hildegard voices that she will too. Of course, Aurora finds it distasteful because she associates the Federal Party with the anarchists, and insulted Abel tries to disprove Aurora's claim, but a sudden knock interrupts their conversation. At that moment, a group of authorities barges inside the residence and arrest Abel, for they believe he's responsible with the anarchist group that robs and hurts women. Following this, Aurora finds her daughter weeping on her bed, for the dean feels betrayed by Abel's alleged crime. To deepen Hildegard's disappointment with him, Aurora recites an excerpt from William Shakespeare's play wherein there Author emphasizes that men are deceivers when the pair are asleep. McKenna, whose conscience bothers her, decides to resign from working with them, and she writes an apology letter for Hildegard on her romance novel. The following day, Aurora noticed is the novel on the counter, but because she hates it, she throws it in the trash. Since they don't have a housekeeper at the moment, Aurora assumes the task of serving Hildegard's breakfast. The teen confronts her mother about what happened to McKenna, but Aurora simply dismisses the issue. Just then they hear a knock, so Hildegard volunteers to check on their visitor, thinking it's McKenna. Surprisingly, it's Eduardo, and the man is trying to hand her an envelope from Abel. However, Aurora suddenly appears, compelling him to pretend he's handing Hildegard the money McKenna is supposed to collect. Once Aurora leaves to sign a receipt, Eduardo gives her the envelope that conceals the tickets for London. With a tinge of hope, Hildegard asks Eduardo's opinion on whether Abel really committed the crime, but he's unsure. Shortly after, in the kitchen, Hildegard scans the ticket and notices the novel in the trash, which intrigues her. Upon opening it, she reads McKenna's apology and starts to assume that something strange is happening before she can form her assumption further. Aurora appears and introduces her to their new maid Rosa. In the afternoon, while Aurora is napping, Hildegard sneaks out of their house to visit McKenna at her residence. Hildegard knocks on McKenna's door, but she meets Antonio instead. Behind him is a group of men with a stack of money, which leads Hildegard to conclude that he is the actual member of the notorious anarchist group, not Abel. Not wasting any second, Hildegard demands to speak with McKenna, but Antonio denies that his wife is home. Despite his efforts to push her away, Hildegard insists on speaking with McKenna because they have an important matter to discuss. Without a choice, McKenna appears and urges Antonio to allow her to talk to Hildegard. Now alone with her, Hildegard asks her if Aurora is the culprit for his arrest, and McKenna confirms. She explains that Aurora has discovered that Antonio was responsible for the misdeeds, so she offered him money in exchange for framing Abel. Hildegard feels betrayed, especially since McKenna allowed it to happen. Therefore, she orders her to report Antonio to the authorities. If she refuses, she threatens to report it herself and ensure that McKenna is charged as an accomplice. Back home, Hildegard bravely faces her mother and declares that when Abel is freed, she'll take him with her to London. Aurora forbids her from leaving, which upsets her. Hildegard then expresses her disappointment in her for endangering an innocent person's life for her own gain. Furthermore, she emphasizes that her mother's actions cost her happiness, but the woman refuses to show remorse. Aurora explains that she only made sacrifices to make her life project a success. Due to her words, Hildegard points out that Aurora is hypocritically ill because she's behaving like a man, denying a woman to be free, especially to love. As a result, Hildegard declares that she is now a free woman and will not participate in Aurora's so-called project, which is only for her selfish desires. Upon hearing this, Aurora realizes that Project Hildegard has failed, which makes her think that there's no point in continuing it. That's why on the same night, Aurora orders Rosa to take the dog for a long walk so that she'll be alone with her daughter. Once Rosa is gone, she heads to Hildegard's room and unrumored why shoots her daughter until she's lifeless.